So we're doing, in this lesson, the Marxist conflict view class. We're going to learn about this particular theory of inequality, and we're going to assess its veracity. Veracity, from the word verity, it means truth. So we're thinking about, well, how true is this theory? How accurate? How valid? Keywords are Karl Marx, conflict, power, unfair, bourgeoisie, middle class, ownership of the means of production, proletariat and working class. So, bourgeoisie is the fancy Marxist term for the middle class. Bourgeoisie. Try and get this spelling right. I'm pretty sure you get an extra mark in the exam just for spelling it right. Proletariat is a fancy Marxist word for working class. Yeah. Okay, so here he is, Karl Marx, German bloke with a beard, come up with these ideas, 150 odd years ago. So Marxism is a way of looking at the world. So if you're a Marxist, you see the same things as everybody else, but you think about them differently. So to a Marxist, this mob of idiots is showing something more deeply wrong. These are what Marx would have called the bourgeoisie. Rich, idle, but the money is coming from the work of somebody else. They don't make any money, they just have money, inherited wealth. A Marxist would say, let's say, look at this news story from a couple of years ago. This woman here murdered her boyfriend, and then 4 days into her sentence walked out of the open prison she's been sent to. Now she's murdered somebody and she's gone to prison for murder, been found guilty, and she gets sent to an open prison where she escapes by just walking out. Now a Marxist would say, well, that's because she's a member of the bourgeoisie and therefore different laws apply to her, in effect. Okay, let's move on. In class, I'll be asking you to do this diagram. So, we've got, here's the way Marxists see things. Here's the business, the factory, the company, whatever it is, it makes money. Here you go, it makes money. It makes profits. Now the question now is, where does the profit go? And here's where Marxists say things start to go wrong. They say, look, most of the profits go to the owner. The Marxists call the bourgeoisie. They own the means of production, the business. They do no actual work. Because they own the business, they get most of the money. As opposed to about a much smaller percentage of the money, the profits, go to the workers as wages. The workers, Marxists call the proletariat, do all the actual work. It is they who make the profit, but they only get a small percentage of it back as wages. So to give this a more sort of current version, let's say here's our business, our means of production to a Marxist. A Hilton hotel. The Hilton hotel makes profits. Most of that goes to the people who own the hotel, Paris Hilton and her family. They don't do any work, they don't make any beds, they don't cook any food, but they receive most of the money. They're rich because they own the hotels, as opposed to the clerks, the cleaners, the chefs. They're the ones doing the work, but they don't receive much of the money. Most of the money goes to the owners, the bourgeoisie, the proletariat. Okay, now we also look at what the bourgeoisie do with all this money. They use it to get power. They run the government. They control the law. And most importantly, they control the culture, the stuff in our heads. This means that most of us never question the world we live in and ask if it is fair. This is called what? This is called, you can see here, this is referred to as hegemony, controlling the stuff in our heads. The power, to a Marxist, with the money goes the power. So we talked about it before in class, the idea of private property. It is just an idea. It is not a law in the same way that gravity is a law, and yet that's the way it feels like in our heads. And a Marxist would say, well, this is all because of hegemony, that the bourgeoisie have put this idea in our heads to protect their property. We'll do some more work on this in class and more thinking about it. Now, moving on. The idea that you don't know any of this, that you're brainwashed, Marxists refer to as false consciousness. You think the world is fair when it is not, when the bourgeoisie control it. The fact that you don't know about this is referred to as false consciousness. Again, we'll talk about that more in the lesson. What we're going to look at, I want you to think about it now. Think about everything we talked about. What would a Marxist say about the X factor? A Marxist would have very particular thoughts on that TV programme, on what it does, what its purpose is. Try and figure it out. Talk to you in the lesson.